Hey, folks, welcome back. It's good to have you here. I am so honored and excited and grateful to introduce you to our guest for today, who's none other than Kim Barta. Welcome, Kim. It's an honor to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you, Forrest, for welcoming me on. It's wonderful to be here with you as always.
I oftentimes will put out a poll on my social medias and in my communities and ask people who they'd like to have on the podcast, and you're the number one request from the audience. So I know everyone's
Oh,
going to be happy to have you here and enjoy
okay.
our exploration today. So
Mm,
big welcome for me and also the community that tunes into the podcast.
mm. Thank you so much. That's very sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll get us going here in a moment. Before we do that, I'm going to try something I've never tried before, which is creating a plug and endorsement and celebration of your offering in the world that I know you have a couple spots open for, which is Commune with Shadow. So, for anyone listening, I want to invite you to go to Kim's website, kimbarta.org, and check out his year-long shadow work program that's called Commune with Shadow. I've personally done this program before. It's a year-long shadow work program. One of the best shadow work trainings on the planet, in my opinion. You get a year-long program with Kim, who I'll tell you, in my opinion, is the best shadow worker on planet Earth alive. And you get to do it with an amazing community of people. You get to be a part of the lifelong community of all the people from all the cohorts who've ever done the Commune with Shadow program, including me. I'm in the global community of alumni who've done the shadow work program. You get to learn Kim's meta model for shadow work resolution, his evolution of shadow resolution meta model, which will make any shadow work you're doing infinitely more effective. Kim's got a guide for helping you navigate the world of finding a useful and effective shadow work practitioner, help you be able to interview the person who you're going to do shadow work with in a really robust and good way, so you can make sure you're in good hands when you're taking on doing the shadow work. And if you have an experience like I did, you're just going to have a lot of fun doing some of the most important work we can do, in my opinion, really diving down into the mud, getting into the muck of what we struggle with and the things that make us human, and the raw, real sustenance that we can be with in a way that gets liberated and either integrated or released or reclaimed, whatever needs to be done. That's part of Kim's genius, and his model is helping you determine what kind of techniques need to be applied to what kinds of shadow. So I just want to wholeheartedly, overwhelmingly, infinitely endorse Kim and his program and his work. If you are someone who's enjoyed anything that I've ever convened and participated in the world, and just if you have a passion for consciousness work and healing work and being a force for good in the world, definitely check out Kim's program. You can find it on kimbarta.org. It's called Commune with Shadow. And if you would like to have a 10 or 20-minute phone call with me to talk about whether it might be a good fit for you, I'm available for that. So you can just send me an email at forrestbwilson@gmail.com, and I'm happy to jump on the phone with you for a few minutes and see if it's the right program for you. Um, Kim, I want to give it over to you and see if you want to add anything about the program and what you're bringing together here.
It was just a great introduction, Forrest. I'm so appreciative of you. And yeah, this is, when we talk about shadow, a lot of times we're doing it in isolation. And to have a community of support is so rich and rewarding. We get community of support around, meditation practices, and we get community support around, stage work, and we get community, in just all kinds of different things. But we often don't get community support around shadow. And so this is a great opportunity to not only learn how to apply shadow to yourself, but create a community that can hold space for you and that you can hold space for them. And we commune together and heal together and grow together and transform together in a beautiful way. I'd also like to extend a substantial discount for all Forrest Wilson listeners here. of $1,500 off the program. So that's a huge discount. That's a huge discount. And but Forrest and I are pretty close. I love Forrest very deeply, and so I want to offer that to all of you listeners of Forrest Wilson to get that discount. I haven't set that up. That just came to my mind as I was talking, so I will set that up. And and the and the coupon code will be Forrest, Forrest.
It's great.
And I will set that up probably tonight or today, right after the call.
Yeah, just send me the link, Kim, and I'll put it in the show notes in the description for the podcast so people can find it easily.
Will do. Sounds
Okay.
great.
Yeah. Okay, y'all. Well, if you feel the call, if you feel the nudge, if your curiosity and interest is singing, definitely encourage you to go check out Kim's offerings, and Commune with Shadow is definitely a great one to get involved with. So thanks for offering this in the world, Kim. I really appreciate that you're doing Commune with Shadow.
You bet, Forrest. My pleasure.
Okay, so there's a little tiny thing we do here, Kim, at the beginning of the podcast to get going. So I'll just do that to set us up. Um,
Mhm. Sounds good.
for all of you who have been here before, you know that we call this a field first podcast. And what that means is we invite you to notice not just the topics and um, themes and conversation, the words that Kim and I are exploring, but we're also inviting you to notice where Kim and I are speaking to you from in this podcast. And just taking a deep breath, inviting you to relax and allow yourself to be resourced and even recreated from the field of consciousness that this podcast is recorded from. So, welcoming all of you and welcoming you, Kim. Here we are.
Thank you, Forrest.
Yeah.
How are we going to play today?
What happens for you hearing Field First podcast?
Oh, it's just so lovely because it really is a wonderful flip from the whole concept of we're talking about topics and we're learning information to we're being, a shift from doing to being, a shift from presence, from information to presence, and a shift from uh, um, acting as if the things we talk about are more important than the things than the essence of who we are as we talk about them. And I love that shift. I think that's a beautiful, novel, and lovely shift.
Mm. I'm just my smile is singing over here hearing you say that. It's like a perfect description of what we're inviting and evoking here. So thank you.
Mhm.
Well, I consider you a master of supporting people who are making this transition, the kinds of transitions you're talking about, shifting from information to presence and actually being what it is that we're exploring in our concepts.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like, I mean, you really work on the full spectrum of the human experience. And what do you notice with people who are tuning into a podcast like this and navigating a transition out of the concepts of what we could be exploring and actually into the experience of it in the moment?
Mm. Yeah, it's a great question for us because if you feel into our culture, we are a very much information-based culture. And so it's so easy for us to project information-based concepts onto spiritual experiences. And so we think that we know something by learning it. And that's just not accurate when it comes to spirituality. There are people that can spew off, way better spiritual words and concepts than I can, without a doubt. They sit down, they read the books, they memorize them, they've got them in their head, but you can feel the difference between whether it's a learned thing or an experienced thing. And when people come from experience rather than learning, it's a whole different thing. That's one of the things that I did when Terry and I started Stages International is Terry was learning all these concepts and developing them in these beautiful ways, which I just absolutely honor. And then I thought, well, what happens if you actually take the exact opposite take? What if you don't learn anything from anybody? And all you do is follow the natural evolutionary flow, the natural evolutionary flow of consciousness within you. What happens if you just tune in deeply? And what happens is all these spiritual experiences that you read about start arising naturally in you. I mean, somebody had to come up with them originally, right? They didn't read a book. So, what was the original person doing? They were following the natural evolutionary flow of consciousness. And by following that, you get to all these places, but you get to it organically. And you might have different words. You might not sound smart up on a podcast about spirituality because other people can say the words better. But you have the experience from a deeply embedded, organic ground of being up rather than a conceptualized thing that I'm trying to force into my system.
I
And
noticed.
that's not to complain or say anything negative about doing it the other way. I'm just telling you what my process, what called to me and what my process was and how I work with people. I don't work with people by telling them concepts, and getting them to practice them. I work with the organic dynamic within their own being that naturally unfolds spirituality within them.
I know some folks might be doing audio only, and others are going to be watching this on YouTube and get the video too. But I noticed when you were speaking about the natural, organic, evolutionary flow of consciousness, you did this gesture right at your chest with your two hands. And I'd
Mhm.
be curious if you would just bring us a little bit more into this gesture. What's happening for you as you're
Yeah. So what we have, I'm just circling my hands, and this is just, and I'm not saying this is what you should do, circle your hands. This is just an invitation to the natural flow of consciousness as it flows through us. And I tend to be very heart-centered, so a lot of times it comes here. But a lot of people are feet-centered or groin-centered or head-centered or throat-centered or belly-centered. It doesn't matter. You can just do it anywhere, and we have multiple modalities that can help us access these different experiences. And sometimes doing movement helps move the flow. Sometimes absolute stillness helps move the flow. Sometimes conceptualization, like we often do, can help open up ideas and move the flow in your mind. Sometimes emotional dynamics will help move flow emotionally. Sometimes it's just being in deep relationship with another human being, and we can feel the flow between us then, and that enhances flow. We can have flow with symbols within our mind. We can have flow with somatic and sensorial experiences in our body. We can have flow with the vast, complex adaptive systems that occur within and around and between us. And all of these different aspects of flow create a rich tapestry, multidimensional dynamic of flow that occurs and that we can all um, nurture within ourselves.
and you have these different expressions of flow codified and you teach them in different courses that you have, like your love relationships and flow program is
Mhm.
another offering where you explore these. So I know one of your passions is creating meta models and bringing um, these, simplicity, right? The simplicity that includes all the complexity
Mhm.
to things that can be sort of too much for the mind to fathom. You have these really grounding, useful, effective frameworks that liberate the whole territory because anything you could possibly explore fits inside the parameters of the model.
Yeah. Yeah, I love one of the natural passions that arise in me is creating meta models. And I think the things that create a really good meta model are are it needs to be comprehensive, but it also needs to be simple. It needs to be comprehensive so that all other models can fit inside of it, but it has to distill down the fluff of other models from the actual essence of what works and doesn't work. And so a lot of it is just noticing the essence that works with every shadow model out there and go, what are the essences, versus the storylines that the people who write these models, what's the storyline that they tell? And the storyline that they tell is often not the valuable part. And that's often what you get taught. But if you get below the storyline to the essence of what's actually happening, it boils down to very simple concepts, and that every one of them has one or more of these basic concepts. And so, if you can understand the essence of everything from the most pure, refined place, then it actually is simpler, which makes it more effective, more efficient, more enjoyable, more robust. And um, And that's part of the passion that brings me to creating these models.
Well, and it's once you know about meta models, it's hard to function without them in a lot of ways. You're in this vast ocean of information, and there's the only thing that's holding it is the
The meta model. Right. Because you could study 1,000 different shadow models and they're all good, But like, how could you learn 1,000 different models out there? It's like you pick the one that's most popular, everybody's doing. That doesn't make it the best one, right? I mean, the most popular one is probably at about 3.5, 4.0, maybe, because that's where the vast number of people are that are starting to explore consciousness is. So if you're there, that's great. But if you happen to be a little above or a little below, earlier than that or later than that, those models that are extremely popular often are just not adequate for what you're doing. And so when you have a meta model, you can go, oh, now I can look at any model more efficiently, more effectively, more enjoyably, more efficiently for myself.
Yeah, yeah. And for anyone who's listening and wondering about the numbers that Kim just referenced, 3.5 and 4.0 are two of the stages in the stages matrix that Kim and his sister Terry have developed together. So if we reference any numbers in this podcast like 1.5 or 6.0 or 2.5 or anything like that, we're referencing a model of how human consciousness
Mhm.
evolves evolves through
Well, and
stage and
evolves.
devolves evolves and devolves as part of the shadow. Is the regression happening consciously or
That's
not?
right. That's the key. Did I regress consciously in a healing way, or did I regress unconsciously and make a shit show out of my life?
Totally. Or just out of passion. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
you're with
right.
a newborn baby, you just
That's
drop down to
right. What
1.0.
fun.
Yeah, how
Right.
fun is it to
Yeah.
just be in
Yeah.
1.0 with a newborn?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But since we'll be referencing, it might be good to just clarify, anytime we say first or second or third or fourth or fifth, we're talking about a first person perspective, which is pretty universal concept for people. This is me, I'm viewing things from my own perspective. A second person perspective would be like, I'm viewing from my perspective. No, I'm also viewing from Forrest's perspective. How's Forrest viewing this experience? What is he wanting? What is he needing? And so that's a really important thing when we're starting to get into field. We need to have at least second person perspective if we're getting into a collective field of connection, right? And then third person perspective is I can carry my first person perspective, my second person perspective of another person in front of me, but I also can carry an objective person. Like if there was just an objective person that had no bias, what would they be thinking about this conversation? How would they be experiencing this conversation? In a sense, that can become eventually an aspect of an unconditional loving witness, if we want. I mean, third person perspective is often associated with like, businessmen trying to accomplish things, but it doesn't have to be. It can be on a spiritual, psychological level. It can be an unconditional loving witness that just observes things from a neutral perspective. And then fourth person perspective brings in all the cultural dynamics and the internal personas. Like we have many parts inside of us, personas or ego states that rise and fall. And when we can start seeing that world, that brings us into fourth person perspective. And so that'll give listeners a chance to just kind of see the trajectory of human consciousness from a baby who can only see from their perspective to a toddler who can see from their perspective but wants everything for themselves, to a child who can create friendship and create fairness, to a teen who engages in rules about what's the cool way to be and the uncool way to be, and your in group or your out group kind of thinking, but it creates stability for the group. To more of that scientific perspective, or on a spiritual level, a more unconditional loving witness perspective, to being able to see culture, my own internal culture, interpersonal culture, cultures of different nations and different peoples. And then we can go from there if we want.
Well, I imagine many folks listening to this podcast would want for us to keep going, so we can do that. And yeah.
So when we're talking about field experiences, I mean, any one of these can have a field experience. It's just that I'm lost in my own field experience, right? Or I'm really feeling the interpersonal field experience between us. And then it grows up between what is the field experience. Like, you know, I mean, children feel field experiences too. You can see them in play, and they don't necessarily consciously recognize it, but if a lot of kids are running around vivacious and jumping around and having fun, they're doing it too. And that's kind of a field experience of play. So I like to often, what really helps when we get to these later perspectives that we often are swimming in, it sometimes helps to drop back to what are the basics? What do we see in children or see in ourselves when we were children? And it helps give us a perspective of what we're going through in this next spiral around the loop. And so, yeah, we can go into fifth person perspective if you'd like. Where would you like to go, Forrest?
Well, I love this. I love this exploration you're bringing us into of how field grows up through the
Mhm.
stages. Um, so yeah, I mean, please continue. That sounds great.
Okay. So if we look at how field unfolds from I'm just a baby, or I'm just an individual, I'm just a kid who feels the spontaneity. Like this is a good place to start. Like a toddler just feels spontaneous and they're just feeling their own experience. And it's kind of in their mind, you know, everybody's feeling what they're feeling and everybody's wanting what they're wanting. It's a sweet, innocent narcissism, and it's lovely. And just to look at ourselves a little bit. When we're at the beginning edge of a field experience, it's kind of that innocent narcissism too. We're not really tuned in to the other person in the field. We're tuned into our field and we're projecting it on everybody else. And we're saying this is what everybody's feeling, but they're not necessarily feeling that. And we see this at later developmental levels all the time, that people are feeling something amazing themselves and they're projecting it onto the group, and they haven't got that sensitivity yet to the other. And we see this in children when a toddler like jumps up on the middle of a coffee table, strips off all his clothes, and is just dancing, and happens to be a church Bible study group the mom's putting on. And it doesn't turn out. So, mom's horrified, and, the Bible ladies are like covering their eyes or giggling or whatever they're doing. But it's like, this is not, the kid is not aware of the field, right? The collective field, but he's absolutely involved and embedded in his own field. He just loves it. It's the best thing in the world. But as we grow, we start being able to attune to another person. What's happening in their sense? What's their sense of the field? And so if we start playing with field as like vibrational essences of consciousness, then we can start experiencing another person's field. And this is where like children go into this beautiful reciprocal play. They're just absolutely in tune with each other. You watch them when they're in deep play. And we've really robbed children of this so much as we've taken our third person perspective, achievement orientation, and crammed achievement win lose games down the throats of our children. Children don't create win lose games. They create cooperative games where everybody wins. If you watch a child who has not been indoctrinated into win lose games, they don't create win lose games. They create win win games. They create imaginary play games where everybody enjoys it and everybody has fun. That's the natural essence. And that requires being in tune to the field of everybody else. Now, of course, sometimes they get their feelings hurt and they blah, 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 blah. But most of the time, they do pretty darn good, actually. If we grow that up into the subtle field, a lot of times we think that, the field is what I think it is again, but it's on a subtle level. So I might be saying, well, everybody's experiencing, how much they appreciate me. Right? I'm appreciating me, but that doesn't mean everybody else is appreciating me, or everybody's appreciating you, or everybody is thinking that what we need to do is create a plan, but nobody else wants to create that same plan except for you. But I'm not seeing it. So I'm so focused on my plan of what I want the group to experience that I'm not actually attuning to what everybody else wants. So what often happens is people create like a talking stick so that it kind of forces that everybody gets a turn to talk. And that slows it down so that if you're not used to being in tune with everybody else, it slows it down so that you kind of, it enhances the opportunity to start being connected to everybody else. Now, you can avoid that by just still thinking, what am I going to talk about when the stick comes to me, and being ignoring everybody else and then try to say the most profound thing in the world, right? But that kind of misses the whole point, misses the whole thing. It's just
Wouldn't
not there
I
yet.
wouldn't know anything about that at all.
No, no, no.
I've never done that in my life.
I'm sure nobody on this podcast has ever done that, but I've read somewhere that that happens. So I wouldn't know from personal experience.
I mean, I'd still to this day, I'll notice I'll be in the room going, "Wow, I'm not listening to anybody. I'm just sitting here
Right.
waiting to share what I have to share. This is amazing."
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's time to listen a little bit.
Right. Yeah. See, I've got this great field experience, and my
Yeah,
field experience is better than everybody else's field
totally.
experience. So you should all attune to me.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for all coming to my show. Nice to have you
Yeah.
here.
Okay, we're close, folks.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
Uh, so, we're just toddlers sometimes bumbling around, but that's part of what it is we get to the later developmental levels. We become an infant and a toddler again until we grow up and mature. So that's okay. We just hold it with grace and love and go, okay. So when we get into the meta-aware, of course, we have that same loop going, right? It's like, oh man, I am in the cosmos. I am floating through the universe. I am everywhere, and that's what needs to be done. But somebody else might be having a different field experience in the meta-aware. And so if I can really attune and listen to their field experience and share my field experience in the meta-aware, we can really expand the map of what that whole vast territory is about. And it's glorious.
Yeah, I keep hearing the word interconnectedness. It's so much of the spiritual teachings that I've heard are really focused on our own awakening journey, as if we're this solid, separate thing, or even that we're this boundless thing that doesn't even have any edges, but that we are everything, and that somehow it misses the relational component with everything else that's going on. It's like once you have that experience, it supersedes everything else and dominates it in a way. Uh,
Just like a little kid, a toddler who will hit another kid over the head and take the toy because they want it.
I'm gonna hit you over the head with my enlightenment.
Right. I'm gonna hit you over the head with my enlightenment because I want it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love the way you brought it up. Yeah, yeah, I'm the timeless bounded. I'm connected to everything, but I'm connected to everything in my way.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
still a me thing, right? I pretend that I'm interconnected, but it's still I'm the one producing all of this, and I'm not truly receiving from the others. And I love that you pointed that out, that that's what we're talking about here is the difference between creating an individual field experience which we project on everybody else, or the universe itself, or the cosmos with a K as well as a C, and then have that reflected back to us as if it's a mirror, and we're still not interconnected genuinely.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, this is where when we talk about coming out of the map and into the territory, I mean, this is the game in so many ways. I
Yeah.
mean, how do we actually be with what is, not just with what we're hallucinating and manufacturing and drumming up for ourselves?
Yeah, beautifully stated. And so what that requires is deep receptivity to start with. Because if I can produce any state, I can produce all these states, When I describe these states, and I talk to these different spiritual masters, they go, "Oh, that's pretty advanced. That's this and that's this." And I don't even know what the terms are because you know, I'm ignorant of terms. I'm ignorant of spiritual terms. But the masters seem to think that I'm doing something pretty amazing. I don't know. But that's irrelevant because from that perspective it's like, oh, you're doing something right, but that messes with the whole field too because now it's just this weird ego vibration that's ugly, and it's not as beautiful, I should say, for me. It's when we just come from the natural evolutionary flow of consciousness and we just allow it to unfold, and then there's no hierarchy or juxtapositioning or any any of that stuff going on. It's just the purity of the flow itself unfolding. And then as I unfold in action and give to you, I can wake up, and then I can go, oh, I can receive from Forrest, and I can receive from others in the community. And I'm not the permanent instructor, the guru. It's like I'm always a student. I'm always learning from every person. And that's what I teach to my shadow mentors too, is that, they start practicing on a volunteer. And then I go, I, I have them write out, what did you learn from your volunteer client? What did they teach you this session? And that's my experience as I walk through life, is what is this moment teaching? What can I receive so that I can offer back and we can be in reciprocity?
Sacred economy.
Tell me about sacred economy.
I just the phrase that came to me when I'm listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's this sacred exchange of just giving and receiving. So
Mm-hmm.
that the words just flew out of my mouth, but um,
Yeah.
just sharing wisdom and love. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Love that. Yeah. Sacred economy. Kind of like money is a representative of concrete goods, and now it's becoming a representative of subtle goods. But conversely, the wealth is actually in the essence itself. Because if we get down to it, if we really ask somebody, you want to be a millionaire or a billionaire, it's like, well, what would that give you? If you keep asking that question over and over, what will that give you? And what will that give you? Kind of boils down to, again, kind of the essence of all humanity. We kind of want love, safety, care, companionship, freedom to some degree. And we often think that money will buy that for us. And so it becomes not sacred, it can become sacrilegic. So I'm loving your concept of sacred economy, because what that comes down to is saying, no, it's the sacred exchange that is the economy. Money is secondary.
Well, and can you imagine if we had awareness-based system that was able to reflect back to us the in the moment exchange of these non-symbolic energies
Mm-hmm.
in relationship and also in vast networks, and be able to see where are things really flowing and where are things in need of some support to be able to jive again. I mean, that's the future of money in my at least over here in my world. That's what it might look like.
Tell me more about that, Forrest. It sounds beautiful.
Well, it's, if you see the if there was a technology where we could see how freely information was flowing between different locations in the field or between different human beings, let's just say humans,
Mm-hmm.
how freely love and wisdom and connection and um, presence are flowing in different interrelational fields. You could also see that from a network perspective, how vibrantly and vivaciously and robustly and potently is information and consciousness flowing between different nodes in the network. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what does that make possible to be able to actually have a clear insight into that information? What could it
Mm-hmm.
help? How could we start to dance with that? And what could it help to start to liberate? Where could we create liberating structures or escalators, things that might help the network adapt itself so that
Mm-hmm.
things could be even more robust and enlivening.
How would advanced, subtle awareness, meta-aware awareness system allow that information to flow unobstructed? Yeah. What do you see the choke points are that keeps that information from flowing freely? You
I
don't
like
have to
that.
answer that. It's just
No,
it's a
I like the question. I thought I felt a different. I've almost heard another question come through, so I'm just re-registering the question you asked. Give me just a second here. Um, well, whatever. I mean, shadow is the answer. Any constrictions on, any constrictions on consciousness, shadow is the answer. That's feels a
yeah.
little bit vague, and it also is the answer. So I'll hand that back to you and let you do something with
Yeah.
it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I was playing with your sacred economy idea and how we have a secular economy idea. And right now, money shows where the flow of goods go, where the flow of information goes. And social media, things that capture your attention, um, almost in an addictive way, because the algorithms are designed around addictions. They're designed around, slot machines. They're designed around how do I create the most addictive experience possible. And so addictive type experiences are what tend to rise to the surface. And so right now we have a really open flow of maybe the most addictive and often the most self-destructive, the most disempowering information flowing very freely. So I guess the invitation is, how do we take charge of algorithms in this modern world? For example, we would not allow a human being to go around killing people, but we don't mind that algorithms do. We know that they're killing people, but we don't have any law against an algorithm killing people. We only have laws against people killing people. So what if we had laws that limited destructive algorithms and allowed for the flourishing of healthy algorithms, so that what was healthiest in a society is the information that flowed smoothly and easily, rather than that being the stuff that's blocked off because it doesn't get enough thumbs up from enough popular people who are desperately seeking stimulation from social media. And stimulation sometimes good, sometimes stimulation to get in arguments and anger and resentment. But either way, it's stimulation as opposed to deep attunement. Because the algorithms are designed to provide free flow of information for stimulation, not deep attunement. Yeah.
And a perspective that I often invite, friends or clients into is a lot of this behavior is actually self-soothing,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's porn use or social media addiction or whatever. There is a culture right now of beating people up for being addicted.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing these addictions as a form of self-soothing and then
Mm-hmm.
tracing that back and going, what is it that we're soothing
Mm-hmm.
with this behavior?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's the case every single time. And oftentimes, like you said, if we follow everything back, what am I wanting? Well, I'm wanting connection right now. At least when I'm on this social media platform, I'm getting connection to lots of stuff going
Yeah.
on in the world.
Right.
It's not as full and robust and alive an experience of connection as we could have. And um, there's distortion in this, like that you're speaking about, and there's also a lack of boundaries, which you're also speaking to. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so we're missing a solid structure underpinning things to help keep healthy bowling lanes, right? Bowling barriers up, so we don't go too far one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and well, let me just pause there and check in with you. Yeah.
No, I agree. And so creating, I mean, just kind of taking spirituality and devolving or involuting into the concrete and subtle world where algorithms exist, because that's part of what the whole meta awareness, the whole, and I don't mean that even just in the meta aware tier. I'm talking about when we talk about evolution of consciousness, it is it's valuable to evolve and it's valuable to involute, to devolve in a conscious way, to come back into the world with this wiser consciousness from the upper world that we've gone to. So we go up there, we rise to these places, and then we carry that wisdom back down into the world, into our everyday lives. And it's that wisdom that is tapped into in this cycle of life, this cycle of consciousness, that actually grows up the concrete and the subtle tiers in healthier and healthier ways. Because, like, I think it was Albert Einstein said, you can't solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. So we create later level consciousness that can come back in and solve the problem. And that's the sacred journey that we all are invited into. And so as we talk about this, we're talking about this from a spiritual perspective. What's going to actually allow for the evolution of consciousness? What algorithms would support that? What algorithms block that flow? And so, and then if we raised a whole new generation of children and teens on algorithms that were about interconnected depth rather than avoidant stimulation, what kind of a world would that create?
We have a mutual friend, Jordan Miska Allen, who is building this platform in real time. It's called Uptrust.
Uptrust, yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
job, Jordan.
Yeah. I'll link it in the show notes for people. If you go to uptrusting.com, you can get involved. What Jordan and his team are doing, I mean, I've gone to hackathons with Jordan and his team and sat in with the engineers as they're building this. And
Mhm.
Jordan's one of my best friends. We talk practically every week, but they're really creating the conditions for people to, you can do certain things with the algorithm to find a perspective that's polarized to yours and
Mhm.
have it recommended to you as give me somebody else whose viewpoint is completely different from mine. And there's functionality of that creates bridges from perspectives. Here's a place these two perspectives can meet and start to get along that you can
Beautiful.
build from. So just big ups to Jordan and
That's
lots of
great.
love to the Uptrust team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Celebrating them.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Um,
and when you're speaking of this sacred journey of evolution and involution, I mean, when these, when these really get going, these are happening all pervasively, or all, I mean, just all the time. You're having this ascending and descending.
mhm.
That,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Again, when we talk about the flow of information and what blocks it, sometimes it's our belief that we need to always ascend,
Hmm.
because that prevents the flow of information back down to the rest of our consciousness that hasn't ascended. And so that in itself becomes a block to further growth and healing. And so we have all these blockages of the way that information flows within ourselves, mimicking the external world, that as we notice them, we can feel them. Like if we just feel into our body, we can notice where things stop, where energy stops, or it's got a choke point. It doesn't flow quite as well, and then we have other places where it just flows really freely. And when we're in our robust place, it just feels like it's all flowing freely, until we get triggered, and all of a sudden we're, upset about, the milk getting spilled on the counter or something. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden that flow is not there. Then, it's like, oh yeah, I'm all enlightened while I'm enlightened, but I'm not enlightened when I'm not. And it's that flow, that involutionary flow that does solve that problem over time. It's the involutionary flow of the wiser self coming back down into being a real grounded human being and living in the world as a fallible, pain-filled person that can stub their toe and get bruises and, get a bloody nose and things like that, you know, that that helps that that free flow of information helps that to grow and handle all of those discontented experiences, not become discontented experiences anymore. Things that would normally lead to some form of disturbance no longer leads to a form of disturbance. And that's the difference between being in a meditative state and being able to access wonderful states, and then getting off the pillow and, cussing at the driver that cut you off because you got annoyed by it, and a person who does the full journey of ascension and involution or descension, and back up again over and over and over, because it's that cycling that purifies or cleanses or heals, whatever word you want, the whole being, all the way from the toes to the nose, kind of a thing.
So Kim, in this podcast, I've heard you articulate two meta-aware dark nights of the soul here. So you recreate this in a way that you would language it, but that's what happens for me hearing you. So one of them is, oh, it turns out when I'm in my big vivacious bliss state, that I'm not the only one here. There's all these other beings and all these other points of awareness to be in
Mhm,
relationship with that are having their own experience. Uh,
mhm,
and so there's a dark night of the soul that can come on the other side of that realization of, wait a minute, I thought the game was realizing enlightenment and having this peak of experience of oneness and bliss and joy, and I
mhm,
can manufacture any experience for myself that I want.
mhm,
But then that kind of souffles, when I'm in the face of the awareness. There's more going on than what I'm manufacturing for myself,
mhm,
and
mhm.
that's like that souffle is a
The
dark
collapse
night
of the
of the soul.
souffle, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so airy, it doesn't have stability.
Yeah,
It's a nice airy souffle, but you sneeze and it collapses.
that's exactly right.
And it's,
So,
and like, why did it collapse? It was so beautiful. It
yeah.
didn't have enough oomph.
Yeah. And then that oomph is down there in the
Yeah,
deepest descent in the aspects of our consciousness that we're
yeah.
bypassing by staying in the bliss realms. So that's
Right.
it's another it's very similar, but it's there's I would make a distinction to this other dark night of the soul, which is okay, I've got access to unbounded
Mhm.
timeless bliss, and awareness of awareness, and I can hang out outside of space and time and enjoy,
Mhm. Mhm.
the clear light of awareness. Um, but that oomph that actually is going to hold me there, regardless of what's going on in my environment, is
Right.
back down in the depths of where I don't want to have to go to because it's painful and ouchy and
Right. Yeah.
all kinds of things. So there's another kind of dark night of the soul that comes like, no, please tell me it's not
Ah, this
happening.
is falling. I'm falling. It's like the Wicked Witch of the West. I'm melting. I'm melting.
Yeah.
But the beautiful part of this, Forrest, is that the souffle falls exactly to where it needs to fall to for the next lesson. Falls right to that point. And then you get to re-rise from that point and go, what? I mean, when the souffle fell, why did it fall all the way to here? Why didn't it just fall, half that far? It's because none of these levels of consciousness held that. The one that held it is where I fell to. That's the part that gave support. And now I'm starting to condemn this part that actually held me. It's like, why am I here? Oh, poor me. I'm not up in the cosmos flying around. I'm not, emptiness, boundless, all this, blah, blah, blah. But but the beauty is the souffle falls exactly when and how much it needs to. And we can rejoice that, oh my God, I caught it here. My consciousness caught it right here and celebrate that. And they go, what was the next consciousness up that didn't catch it? And the next one up and the next one up. I mean, these are the ones we're celebrating up here, but none of them caught it. Sometimes it's my toddler that catches it, boom, all the way down to Toddlerville. But my toddler caught it.
Yeah.
And so we just watch where we fall to, and we're grateful for that part holding it and not having it drop further. And then we start going, what was it? What did I not develop on the way up the first time or the second time or the 50th time that led this stressor to drop me all the way to this point? And when we take it as an informational journey, and when I say information, I mean that in the broadest sense, like spiritual information, whatever. When we take it as an informational journey, it's like, okay, every time we go through something, we only catch so much information, right? I mean, we fly up sometimes through the metaware really fast, but then we collapse back down. It's of course the metaware is vast. We didn't catch it all the first time. That would be ridiculous to even think that we could. It would almost be narcissistic. It might be something that I've even thought in my life. Why didn't I catch it the first time? I should have caught that the first time. Why did I crash out of the metaware? But it's kind of narcissistic to think that I would catch it the first time, right? It's like, oh, wait a minute. No, I'm the innocent kind of narcissism. It's like, okay, no, of course I'm going to collapse. And that's going to allow me to gather more information. If all I do is try and recreate what I did last time, I'm not gathering new information. So that's where I come back to the natural evolutionary flow of consciousness. Because the second time I go back, if I'm really attending, I'm going, oh, I missed this. I missed that. I'm receiving all the long way. If I'm just following a template to get up there, and then I crash, and then I follow the same template to get up there, and then I crash, and then I follow the same template to get up there and crash, and then I go, well, maybe I need a different template, so I follow a different template 10 times. I'm really not gathering a lot of information.
And actually, I'll take it a step further, potentially causing yourself some challenges that you're going to need to undo these neural pathways, um,
Mhm.
you're creating a crevice in consciousness that now you're getting used to navigating, that you might realize uh, that's not helpful and
No.
actually causing harm.
It's actually causing harm because I could only learn those later perspectives from the perspective that I was in when I learned the concepts or the conceptualizations. And the conceptualizations then, of course, polluted the actual experience.
This is a genius level to the nth degree point right here about being able to be with what's needed from the
Mhm.
perspective of consciousness that's needing it, instead
Mhm.
of applying what we see from our angle onto another perspective in consciousness.
Yeah.
saying, I know what you need. It's actually helping the other perspective get what it needs in a
Right.
natural way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I saw you, Kim, the hand gesture came again and you came back to the natural organic flow of consciousness. So you're the contemplation or the reflection, the being with I'm climbing and then descending, I'm climbing and crashing. You're doing this from a certain orientation that seems to, in its own innate organic way, illuminate the territory and show just a little bit more that
Mhm.
offers a new way to play in the next go round.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea seems to, the lesson that keeps coming back, for me at least, is that each time I need to open up wider to more reciprocity, not think more narrow about what I need to do. The more I think about what I need to do, the more it tightens it.
Mm.
And the more I go, I don't know what it is. And let's just notice the vast field as much as I can from each developmental level, the more it opens up.
Big gift in that for me. That just opened up quite a lot. Thank you.
Oh, tell me about that feeling, the essence of that experience, the opening.
Just in the moment you evoked it, more luminosity,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
all pervasively
Yeah.
in the body, in concrete sight, more luminosity. Not just from me looking into the universe, but also the universe looking back into me.
Yeah. And what's it like to receive that? I'm being seen by the universe. There you go.
I mean, I don't have many words. It kind of
Okay. Yeah. 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 But we can feel the field shifted, huh?
just unfathomable. The
Yeah.
just whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
It just strikes me, it's like being a from this place, it's like being in an ocean of light, and each grain of salt in the ocean, a perspective and consciousness that is awakening to itself as this,
Mhm.
and just like
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Each note of consciousness receiving, being seen by the rest of the universe of consciousness, while seeing the rest of the universe of consciousness.
well. And if you ever wonder, you know, the brilliance and the radiance in the souffling, it's like, well, it creates the conditions to have this experience.
It does.
you know
Absolutely.
Before I was one grain of sand claiming to be the ocean.
Right, exactly. Second, next time around, it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Wait a sec.
Like tiny.
What was vast and unbounded just became
The tiny, tiny thing.
tiny little particle.
Love what you're saying. Because I often hear people say, oh, I'm in the timeless, boundless. And I go, which one?
Yeah.
I've been in so many of them, and every one that I think is boundless, when I expand further, it's like, oh, that wasn't boundless. I thought it was. When you're inside boundless, it feels like it's all there is. But when you expand beyond that last version of boundlessness, it becomes a tiny grain of sand. Same with, and that's the space side, the time side is the same way. Infinity is small. I mean, it's huge when you're in it, but then you expand outside of it and it's tiny. It's a tiny grain of sand again. And there's so much more infinity. And it makes no sense because infinity is forever and boundless is forever, right? But there's a difference between being inside of it and then being outside of it and having a whole nother dimension of it occur.
There are vastness, so much more vast than vastness.
Yeah.
And emptiness, so much more empty than emptiness. I mean, we
Yeah.
just keep going.
It just keeps going. Yeah.
In math, I mean, I took three semesters of calculus in college, and we have math equations that demonstrate there are infinities that are larger than other infinities.
That's
But
right.
as far as I'm aware, we don't have a math equation yet that says there are emptinesses more emptiness than emptiness, or there are more boundless than boundlessness. The
Mhm.
fractal nature of
Right.
awareness itself,
Yeah.
we haven't codified that yet mathematically, which is got to be part of the
It's
new
got
physics.
beautiful. It's got to be part of it, which we learn from our spirituality. I mean, you and I have both have experienced that, and we can bring that back down into physics, and physicists that are much better than you or I can go, oh, okay. I mean, if we had a real reciprocal relationship, because physics can often teach us a lot about our spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
upper spiritual end, because it's like, oh, it these patterns replicate on all the different dimensions in so many different ways. And we can use physics as a way of going, oh, wow, wow, look at that. The physics of the metaware.
Quite literally, I mean, the relationship to time and gravity and all that. I mean, it's just
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
there's if I take a perspective on some of our exploration here, I just want to speak to. I imagine anyone who is listening is getting a felt sense of how much fun we can have doing this shadow work and healing work and seeing our disturbances and seeing our narcissism, the ways that we get full of ourselves. And I mean, I just really appreciate the quality of playfulness and the laughter and the enjoyment of it's just the walk that we have to to mess up and fumble and bump our head
Yeah.
and make mistakes. And you know,
Right.
I feel like a lifelong recovering perfectionist. It's
Yeah.
the, the freedom the freedom to just have some fun and let loose. And um yeah, just the wisdom of that kind of genuine humility,
Right.
is
Yeah.
it's really precious.
Yeah. And we can learn from our mothers that sang songs like when you, I'm not saying that mothers all sang this, but I'm talking about the collective wisdom mothers have come up with a song I'd like to sing right now. And that's when a baby falls down and it goes, baby goes boom fall, baby goes boom fall, baby goes boom fall down. Don't cry, everyone boom falls down.
Mm-hmm.
And we can take that up to our spiritual and up into the metaware and beyond. It's like, oh, I fell. That's okay. Everybody falls. And part of that is beautiful because it's the actual falling down and getting back up that builds the muscles. Like a baby that's toddling and it falls down. If it never fell, it would never have the muscles to stand up. It would only have the muscles to walk. And that's not a very robust way to live. You have to fall. Falling is crucial to spiritual strength because if you don't fall, you don't exercise the up and down muscles. You only exercise the standing muscles, and that's not stable.
It's so funny watching you do this gesture of the up and downs because I've had moments in my life where I'm struggling with this so badly, and I'll go outside and do burpees. If you know burpees, where you drop down on the ground and then you get back up and you jump and you drop down, you put your chest on the ground like you're doing a push up and you go all the way back up and do them until they're done. Sometimes it's 20 or 50. And sometimes, I mean, earlier this year, I had one go around where it just wasn't done until I had done 250 burpees in the hot sun in Mexico.
Wow.
And it's like there's something to this game. I
Mhm.
mean, like,
It really
there's
is.
something to this game of concretizing it and just
Right.
get down on the ground, get back up, get down on the ground, get back up, get down.
Yeah.
It builds this stamina that's, I mean, obviously concretely that's building quite a lot of stamina in the physical body, but it's also building an energetic stamina and a spirit stamina of being able to continue rising and falling.
Right.
So I love that you're calling it spiritual strength. It resonates very deeply for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So we have these two types of spiritual strength and physical, subtle, and spiritual strengths. One is resilience, the ability to stay standing even when something pushes you over. Like resilience physically would be I might push you, Forrest, and you don't fall down immediately. You've got some resilience. And so we have that on the subtle level. How can I handle my composure, even if there's emotional pushes going on? And we have it spiritually. How can I hold my spiritual consciousness, even if there's disturbances in the field? And and so that's the resilience strength. And then the recovery strength is the ability to go down and up. I can collapse and I can get back up. I can get knocked down by Forrest hitting me and I can stand back up. I don't just collapse and fall down. And so we have resilience and we have recovery. And these both reiterate all the way up the spectrum. It's like, oh, I need resilience and recovery subtly. I need resilience and recovery in the meta-aware. And that that's what builds that spiritual strength, that spiritual stability. And stability even in the face of being knocked down, knowing that I can get back up. Because if you're not getting knocked down, you're not pushing the edge.
Not playing.
You're not playing. I love that.
Well, I had someone this week. I was at the gym and I showed them this exercise. We did a bunch of lunges with a weight on top of the head, and I was showing them how to develop the deep internal strength in the esophagus, in the throat, in the midline, from the inside out to create the pressure with breathing, to breathe up against that weight on your head while you're doing an exercise like lunging. And
Mhm.
at the end of the whole thing, this person was completely cooked and dropped down on the ground. And I went over and grabbed both of their arms and picked them up off the ground and put their arms over their head. And it was like, we got to develop the neural pathway of celebrating and owning. You just got through something
Yeah,
insanely difficult,
yeah,
insanely difficult. And
yeah.
now's not the time to collapse on the ground and complain and moan about how hard it was. Now's the time to stand up with your hands over your head and let that big smile rip across the face, right? Like,
Right.
just go, oh my gosh, that was so hard and I did it.
Yeah,
Right? I can do hard things. Like, I'm
yeah.
capable, like, et cetera, et cetera. And I love that in your shadow work orientation, you are so aware of the treadmill that people get on of just processing one thing after another, and you teach, hey, everybody, when you actually work through one of these really hard issues, when you do the proverbial lunge all
Right.
around the gym, and you're exhausted, but you resolve the thing, enjoy the newfound experience that's come online for you on the other side of it for at least as long as it took you to work through the issue itself before considering tackling the next issue. And I just love that teaching.
Uh, yeah, it's so important because we start practicing. We just get in this. I call it the hamster wheel or the squirrel cage. It's like, oh, gotta find the next shadow, gotta find the next shadow, gotta find the next shadow, right? And we're not enjoying the fact that we were healed maybe 4 or 5 shadows. So take that time to enjoy, nurture the healing experience and the results, and actually emphasize them, breathe and nurture them. Yeah. But
And from my experience, ride the momentum of them. I mean, if you dive all the way into what gets opened up on the other side of a core shadow issue resolving, that
Mhm.
the what opens up will permeate through a bunch of other shadow issues and get them sorted out for you.
Well, often well. That's right. Effortlessly,
Yeah.
just beautifully. Yeah. And I think a lot of times what happens is we have a fear of our upper comfort zone. We have a lower comfort zone. We all know that. It hurts to go below it, and I don't like that, so I'll do anything to get out of that. But a lot of times we don't notice that when we rise to an upper comfort zone where things are feeling really good, we shrink away. We shrink away from that upper comfort zone. We might strive for a later spiritual connection. It's still kind of safe because it's not necessarily the upper comfort zone. The upper comfort zone is feeling so fucking alive that it's going to tear me apart. And it can be a bit scary being so vivacious that it'll tear you apart.
Oh, I mean, Kim, I've had times where I have personally been in an upper comfort zone. I mean, I have started having orgasms spontaneously
Right.
in a room with other people, and it's
Yeah.
gotten them so triggered they start yelling at me. It's
Hmm.
like it's too much.
Hmm.
It's too much bliss, it's too much enjoyment, it's too
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
just like
Yeah. It's
uh
true. People are actually, I mean, especially in this society, if you drop in and cry and are miserable, they're a lot more comfortable with that than if you're in absolute vivacious, ecstatic bliss. In this society, there's almost something wrong with that. But we need to, as deep as we go, we need to balance that with the height. And that's what creates this wide space, this huge space to explore consciousness in. And it gets us off that hamster wheel.
and there's the kind of famous question of how good can you stand it. I imagine that's kind of the way you invite people to explore this upper
Mm-hmm.
limit is when you're feeling it, just stick with it and stick with it and stick with it. Is that right?
That's right. Stick with it, breathe and nurture it and let it take you. Give yourself over to it. And when you feel yourself starting to resist, what if you let go and let it go a little further? Yeah. And this can happen in terms of height. It can happen in terms of breadth of the experience. So let's say you have a very beautiful state experience, and you're feeling it like maybe right here. What happens if you expand it throughout your whole body? Can all of your body feel that vivacious and alive? Now, can you expand it beyond your body? Can you feel the entire essence around you? How wide can that go and still feel vivacious before it fades out? And then we can also go with depth. How nuanced can I go into it? Like, where is the actual spark of ignition of this particular vivaciousness? And what happens if I drop into the actual spark as deep and as rich as it really is? And we have the height one, developmental height, which we've talked about. What happens when when this drives us to a new developmental level with a whole new perspective. And then we have the fourth one. How intense is it? How intense can I let it be before I just stop? And these are all ways that we can push the upper comfort zone.
And there you have it, folks, and a meta model for pushing the upper comfort zone.
Come on, come you all, come watch the Metalor Clown Circus Show. Come on in, folks.
You might not make it out on the other side, but that's all part of the
Right.
fun. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Mm,
Mhm.
that's that's a meta model for developing a full, whole, lively consciousness.
Yeah.
Four parameters for a wide, deep, tall, vibrant being.
Right.
Yep.
It sure is. Yeah. And we're all invited in any moment.
Speaking of inviting people in any moment, Kim, you've spoken so many times to the natural, organic, evolutionary flow of consciousness and demonstrated this hand gesture a few times. Would you bring me and our listeners into an experience of connecting to the natural, organic, evolutionary unfolding of consciousness?
Mhm. Yeah, I would love to. So let's just take a breath and I want you to notice a place of some vitality. Now, for many of us, we close our eyes and we can find a vitality inside our body somewhere. We're often looking for some darkness or pain or something like that. But in this case, I want you to look for vitality. Notice where you feel the vitality. Now, some people feel it better with their eyes open and they feel the vitality and with their eyes open, others with their eyes closed. So just follow whatever is natural for you. What we're doing is we're just noticing the vitality. Because if we start with our health, that's going to lead us. It'll lead us to the shadows that we need to clear up so it can keep growing. And it'll lead us to height, it'll lead us to breadth, it'll lead us to depth, and it'll lead us to intensity. So let's start with our health. Let's start with our vitality. And wherever that is in our body or something we see outside of us, some people just look at a tree and they just go, oh my God, that's so vital. That's okay. You're seeing it, so it's part of you. And then let's just breathe and nurture that vitality. Just breathe and nurture it. And then we get out of our dictator mind, the mind that thinks, this is who I am. If you think you know who you are, that's the person you're not. So let's let go of that for a moment and come back to the vitality and ask the vitality, what do you want? Do you want to expand in my body? Do you want to go up, down? Do you want to go out? Is there some place in my body you'd like to move to? Or if it's something outside of you, do you want to come into me? Do you want to expand around the tree or whatever it is you're looking at? Just notice what the vitality wants. Does it want to get more intense? Does it want to get more calm? And we're just inviting the vitality to do whatever it wants because it's wiser than this illusion of I that I've created, the one that likes to pretend it knows. So we just breathe and nurture the vitality. And we just go, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And we just keep giving ourselves away to it. There it is. And we just notice how it likes to move. where it likes to move to, what it does. Just keep breathing and nurturing it and just letting it do it. And we just keep giving ourselves away to it, welcoming it into more and more spaces in our consciousness. Wherever it wants to go, following its lead. And just a little pro tip here is that sometimes we think we've got it expanded throughout our body, but it's not in our brain because we're still hanging on to our brain thinking that we know better. So then we let go of our brain and invite it into our brain and just notice what it does to our brain as it does its own psychic surgery on our brain, so to speak. Let it take over our brain. Give it up. And again, just let it go wherever it wants to go. We breathe and nurture it. And all we're doing is breathing and nurturing and giving to it and watching what it does. Giving ourselves away more and more until we don't exist anymore. And all there is the vitality. And noticing and following the impulse of the vitality. Noticing when we constrict it and letting go of the constriction, and then noticing what it does. If we think it wants to go high, stop and let it go where it wants to go. If we think we want it to become intense, stop and let it become as intense as it wants to be. It will create the perfect balance. Give yourself over and trust it. Breathe and nurture. Notice its next impulse, not your desire, but its desire. Notice its next impulse and let it have it. Provide the space for it to do what it wants to do. Sometimes it'll bring you to ecstatic states. Sometimes it'll bring you to deep, stable peacefulness. Whatever it does, it's exactly the right thing. And that's the basics of it. How long can we let it have control and how much?
Beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
It's how dark it had gotten over here. I'm just going to flick a light on.
Yeah, it was actually perfectly beautiful watching you go into this place with this almost like spiritual light shining on you and the darkness all around. It was really fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. So beautiful.
Mhm. You're so welcome.
So at some point we become aware we're not concept, the concept of who we think we are, the story we've manufactured about ourselves, and that we're reifying and recreating all day long.
Right.
And then you're inviting it. Well, just the words. I'm just going to say the words that come to me, and you help me recreate it. But to me, it feels like you're inviting it into the primordial ground and the life force and the vitality that comes.
Mhm.
So that that awareness that sees the illusory nature of our self story gets to interpenetrate with the vitality that comes from the deep depths. So you
Yeah.
really, I mean, it's just full spectrum of the highest states of awareness down into the deepest depths of vitality.
Yeah. The vitality goes through the developmental system and it expands to all the breadth and height and depth and richness and calmness that it needs and wants. And it dissolves the illusions of the I that we have, the one that creates all the problems but thinks it's solving them.
Right. And then we briefly jammed on this. You know, we were together in person in Montana a few weeks ago. We were jamming a little bit on when we get into the metaware, is the new I awareness itself? Do we transition from this concept of who I
Mm-hmm.
think I am into I is awareness itself?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's seemingly gets also surrendered into uh, vast ocean of isness, and
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
this awareness is
Yeah.
one awareness. There's one consciousness.
The rise and fall of the I, you know. We have no I at first when we're born, then we develop one, and then we give it up when we, give ourselves over to friendship in a sense, We still have us, but it's a different kind of I. It's not the narcissistic I of the toddler. It's an I that honors and respects everybody else, that wants to play and have fun with everybody else. And then we create, this kind of this I around all the rules and roles and regulations that we're supposed to have to be a good person. And then we lose that I in the early third person perspective. And then we create another I in third person perspective, a true third person perspective I, which is the ability to think about my thinking. I'm the one that can think about my thinking versus I am my thinking, right? And then we lose that I into the fourth person perspective emptiness, where we have no I for a while. And then we start developing the awareness of the multiple I's within us, the multiple parts, and we are all the parts. But we often hold on to one dictator I that kind of is the one that's doing all the work on the other parts until that one realizes that it's actually just another part that took control. And so that one drops down and becomes part of the democracy of the I, which is the democracy. It becomes one of all the others, and the witness, the unconditional loving witness, rises more then. And then that all fades away in the illusion of the metaware. All the eyes dissolve again, and then a metaware eye arises that allows us to be able to to functionally use awareness of awareness in these beautiful ways. And then it has all these wonderful explorations throughout the cosmos, just delightful, until it also falls away over and over.
And then we have the new democratization of the eyes, which is the vast interconnected network of awareness
Mm-hmm.
itself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The democracy of the metaware.
Yeah, that dictator mechanism grew up into, into
Right, and the metaware and has to dissolve again and they come back and
once again would not know anything about that at all.
no, no, no. No, I read it somewhere in a book, and I think that it probably, happens to other people. Yeah. No, you don't read books on this stuff. Well, I suppose some people have read some. I don't know. I suppose there are books on it. I don't read books anymore. I've come to just fully trust the natural unfolding, and it's just so rich that way.
And then, I mean, yeah, and this is so much of, well, so in terms of you and Terry's work specifically with stages, this is so much of what you two have pioneered together is creating these distinctions and nuances in the meta tier,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the
Yeah.
different echelons that we
Yeah.
navigate through. And
It was pretty anemic before we
mhm,
started exploring it. But I mean, there were like Terry said, there was a few little trails in the sand.
mhm, mhm.
But now there's a much more robust field to play in that is known.
I know these same parameters in the stages model keep growing up. I'm curious about the this same pattern of the eye through the unified or the non-dual tier.
Hmm. Yeah, Terry and I have agreed not to talk about that, so I won't go there, but it absolutely does replicate. Yeah. But again, not in a way that you can predict because, again, you can't understand the later consciousness from the consciousness you're at, right? When you say you're vast in the metaware tier and you talk to a fourth person perspective, they go, oh, yeah, I'm vast too. And they are from a fourth person perspective, but it's completely different than a meta-aware vastness. It's just not even in the same category. But from a individual experiential perspective, from that experience, it feels just as vast.
Yeah, right. Relatively. Yeah.
Relatively, it is just as vast. So it's equally honored.
And just for our listeners who I imagine are curious, you know, I imagine they make up the story of you and Terry not sharing about the unified and non-dual tiers that we're still discovering what that looks like. And um, are there any?
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't want to lead people astray. So, for example, when we moved into MetaWare tier and we were exploring this tier, we had things mapped out, and then we go, wait a minute, maybe we don't even have a MetaWare tier. Because if you don't have a reference point, it's hard to tell. I mean, you guys have a reference point because it's mapped out pretty well. But when there's no real map, it's hard to have a reference point. So am I self-deluding myself? Right? You have to ask that question seriously. And then you have to like prove yourself wrong, prove yourself that no, prove that we don't have a metaware tier. How would I prove that we don't have a metaware tier? And put all your energy into proving it false, right? I'm deluding myself. I'm in a narcissistic illusion. I'm in a state experience that's just vast, but it's not necessarily a later perspective. I mean, you have to explore all of these dynamics when you're on that edge, and nobody's really mapped it out yet. I mean, just like a few tiny little trails, and those are just personal experiences. It's not like now we know the tier, right? It's no, somebody had some personal experiences. What was personal about it, and what was a tier, right? We don't know, or we didn't. So we had to ask all those questions and do a lot of thought experiments and a lot of experiential experiences to go, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, now this is a tier experience, and this is, you know, a state experience, and this is, an individual that has a tier experience, but the descriptions that they're describing isn't part of the tier experience. When you're in it from that leading edge, there's a lot of sorting out to do before you know. And it's easy to convince yourself of a lot of things. So as we explore the potential of the unified tier, we need to be careful and we want to be careful not to mislead or say things that are inaccurate. Um, And a classic example of that is actually Ken Wilber, who his first model was, he had the a couple of tiers and then he tacked on the spiritual states on top of it. And then later he realized, oh no, that's wrong. That's not how it works. The spirituality grows up all the way through. You don't just have these experiences and then have the spiritual world tacked on top of it. And so that was an example of him being on kind of a leading edge, but kind of getting it wrong. But fortunately, coming back and saying, hey, wait a minute, I got it wrong. And we'd rather not go, oh, we got it wrong. We'd rather go, yeah, we're pretty certain about this at this point.
Well, it certainly evokes quite a lot of compassion for our pioneers and luminaries, people who are blazing trails of vivacious consciousness into the future.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and and I'm also really with, as you're speaking about this, I'm really with the co-emergent phenomena of the model of the stage and the territory, with the people having the experience that the model is modularizing, uh,
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
is model making after. And there's a these two
Right.
are in relation, they're informing each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's a Yeah.
yeah. And does the theory hold into the unified tier,
Mhm.
right? We have to we have to take an honest look at that. I mean, we'd like it to hold because then the theory would be right, right? But we have to absolutely prove that it's fall. We have to follow every avenue to prove that it doesn't follow through. To be sure that you know that it's yeah, this is pretty solid. Yeah.
I mean, that's science, right? To the best that we possibly know, it's not
Right.
wrong.
Yeah. The best that we possibly know, it's not wrong. Exactly. Until quantum physics comes along and we go, oh,
Yeah.
what do we do now?
What do we do now?
Which could certainly happen in the unified tier, right? It could be like, oh, wait a minute. Now we got a quantum spirituality, an equivalent to quantum physics occurring here that completely revolutionizes and shows how limiting the model is. We have to be open to that. Yeah. Yeah, because before quantum physics, they were just, I mean, there are many scientists saying we've discovered pretty much everything we need to discover. There's not much left. And then quantum physics hit the scene and blew it all wide open. So,
Well, there is a one of the background curiosities I hold with a developmental model is, um, how much, if there's a vector of alignment, if there's a
mhm,
vector of alignment, how much, we've created a developmental model that can map the trajectory that humanity has grown through its history.
mhm,
But you've offered many times that you feel that since the agrarian revolution, humanity's been in a shadow crash, that
mhm.
we're sorting to get ourselves back into alignment, is the term that I would use, back to
Right.
our
Yeah,
essence.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what's the impact of that on our developmental models if and when we work through those shadow distortions and come back more to our essential nature? How does that essential nature grow up through the stages model and express as developmental models of human consciousness? Um,
And thus, that's why I took the path I took.
yeah.
Terry took this path. And I go, well, if we're really going to know it, we need to take someone who takes the exact opposite path, a path of, because if you take the path of following the developmental model, you risk reifying the developmental model, right? So what if you don't follow the developmental model? What if you just go purely 100% into the natural evolutionary flow of consciousness? And if you do that, does it also lead to the developmental model or does it lead to something different? Yeah. And that's exactly why I did that and why there was this, why why we have this uh, artificial separation. And what we've discovered so far as we play with these upper reaches, the later edge of MetaWare and the early edge of Unified, is we actually are coming to the same place
Mhm.
in a lot of places, in a lot of ways. In some ways, not. So it's going to be curious to see what unfolds there. But in a lot of ways, there's a match, even though she came at it completely from the model and I came at it completely from not the model. So that part reifies and shows that the model um, is good so far. But there are some dynamics that are not necessarily matching yet. And that might be because of individuality. It might be because we need to learn something about the model. It might be because, I mean, just, unique differences in people, kind of like what I said before. Or it might be that we have a quantum revolution that's going to come up in spirituality that hasn't been discovered yet. Yeah. So we're celebrating both the alignment and the curiosity around why did this come out different?
I'm really struck, Kim. I mean, it's quite a devotional path, quite a devotional act of love to give yourself your entire life over to this uh, experiment of what happens if I just go, if
Mm-hmm.
I just, if I just raw dog reality,
Right.
if I just,
Right.
and I'm not going for books and models and
Right.
searching for other people's meaning making, but I just stay with vitality and my own
Mhm.
experience and let that illuminate the way.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
what an act of trust and surrender and devotion and love and service. And I'm really
Yeah.
struck by
Oh,
the path you've taken.
thank you. Never thought about it that way, but I am receiving it and it's bringing tears to my eyes, and I'm deeply appreciative of your witnessing. Hmm.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, we've
Elfine.
Elfine. It
Thank,
was a beautiful journey and will continue to be.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you to everybody here with us for being here on this exploration and podcast. Want to invite you again. Check out Kim and his work, kimbarta.org. He's a good guy to develop a relationship with, and uh, just so many beautiful offerings and teachings and emails. If you go on Kim's website and submit your email, there's a great series of emails you get. There's a
Mhm.
shadow work quiz you can take to understand a little bit about the
Mhm.
shadow landscape you're navigating. So just really want to encourage you to follow that breadcrumb and get engaged with Kim in some way. So Kim, thank you. We'll definitely have to have you back. Um, yeah,
It
just
would be an honor.
all the love in the world, all the love in the cosmos.
Yeah,
Grateful.
all love back.
Okay. Lots of love to all of you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.